Yo, what's up with it, y'all? I'm here with Just Ty, the one and only. We just came to do a reaction video to Do We Have Free Will by this Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he bring out Robert Sapolsky and who's a neurologist in all the neurologies, I guess. But we're gonna dive into it right now and see what they talking about. Cause it's like, do we have free will? Once again, Ty, do we have free will? What do you think?
It all depends on the day.
It all depends on the day, and I feel like, yeah, we do, but we don't because everything was here already. So let's just go and start the video.
All of a sudden, I said to myself, is everything in society explainable in this way? And then I realized, oh my gosh, if it is, then our entire moral code has to shift.
Dang. They not
This
gonna change
is
all
Star
that.
Talk. Neil deGrasse Tyson here, your personal astrophysicist. And I got Chuck Nice with me. Chuck, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Neil. Thanks for asking.
Chuck Nice.
Chuck Nice, a professional stand-up comedian, an actor.
He's funny too, though. He funny. He got some good skits, some good stand-up comedy.
Subject we haven't yet tackled.
Okay.
It's the subject of free will.
Yes.
It came up in the edges of.
Yeah, I was going to say we've tinkered around the edges.
It's just the edge, and we have to.
Couple conversations with Brian Greene, couple conversations with Heather Berlin, a couple neuroscience conversations that
we got
had.
another neuroscientist here, Robert Sapolsky.
Ooh.
A neuroscientist, biologist. He's a professor of biology, neurology, and neuroscience, and neurosurgery. Ooh. Can you be any more neuro than that?
Yeah, I think that's all the neuros. I think that's all the neuros.
or neurotic. That's the one. At Stanford University, best-selling author of 8 books. Right, I have one in my hand right now. Came out just months ago.
Wow.
Determined,
eight
the science of life without free will.
Wow.
And that's going to be a major subject of our conversation today. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Yeah, 8 books though. Golly, he was sold up.
Well, thanks for having me on.
But before we continue here, let me just tell our audience,
Like
you captured so much of this life's profile in a memoir that you write. Just tell us briefly about your memoir. Then we're going to pick up the free will discussion.
Oh, sort of one of my not even marginally scientific books that I cranked out. It's called A Primate's Memoir, and basically just stories of the 30 odd years hanging out with both the baboons, but sort of places there in East Africa. I was there for one coup attempt. I was there for one civil war. I was interesting, colorful place to be a kid from Brooklyn who knows nothing about the outside world. So that was a fun thing to write.
I'm glad you documented that, because if it's a story that others will never have or can't even imagine, that's got to be in print somewhere so that we can access it. Yeah. So tell me, so this is a fascinating birthplace for the ideas that maybe we're not entirely in control of our own behavior. So how did this rise up to become your central focus when thinking about free will?
Well, actually, just to undo all of that, I already didn't believe in free will. I was 14 when I had this incredibly epiphanal night where I suddenly decided there's no free will. I also, as long as I was at it that night, decided there's no God and there's no purpose and it's just a big, empty, indifferent universe.
That is a way to think about it when you dive into yourself.
Yeah. Who's that thing? Who's that person in the sky they've been talking about all this time?
All this time.
was interesting stuff going on the days before
Were
that.
there mushrooms involved in this?
No,
Okay,
but
okay, okay.
there was religious trauma instead, which I think is a much more effective way of messing with your head. So it was a wonderful sort of clarity of, oh, I
You
get
became
it.
nihilist.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
when that word applies. Nihilism.
Hey, I always get to that point to where it's like, oh, I get it. I do get it, but I don't at the same time. But I get it.
Yeah,
Yes,
when that
it's-
nihilism thing come up about
Yeah.
like you know everything. Well, it seemed like you see everything, so does it mean anything? Because the things that the so-called person been told, it seemed like it's on a lower scale than what's being experienced at that moment.
Yeah, at that moment.
Until you keep going though.
Yeah.
So I have not believed in free will since then. So all baboon ecological physiology and all rat, monkey, mice neuroscience did was just add more factoids to, like, we're just machines. We're biological machines.
And I always
All right, so
felt like that too. Like the more I dove in on psychedelics, the more I seen that we were still in our caveman stage or something. Like, cause we were still going off of the things that happened, the way we looked at the planet then. We still living that out now.
Yep. And I was listening to a jazz musician. He was talking about how a lot of people go back to try to learn the jazz that they was making
Yeah.
because what's going on in their mind. But really, like, what should be done is make your own music, make your own genre, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But it takes like really going into that place.
Yeah,
But
because
that's
you
another
try to
story.
stay in between the lines and not step outside of the guidelines of what jazz is supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, you could play what somebody else played. You heard it before.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of them do. Like even Michael Jackson. Remember, Michael Jackson used to sing James Brown songs when he was little. It's like
Real
you'll
quick.
sing the. Ah.
Can
So
you
give us
believe
your the central points of your thesis then. You can't just say, well, I don't think we have free will anymore. Give me some foundations for this.
Well, it's this basic deal where, like, somebody does something and you wonder, like, why that happened, why they did what they just did. And, like, if you want to unpack it, part of the answer to that is because this was going on in this part of the brain a second before, while this part of the brain went silent, or that sort of thing. But you're also asking, wow, well, the person hadn't eaten yet today. They were sleep deprived. They were happy. They were stressed. They were in pain, whatever.
What's
What
the
does that-
hungry judge effect? That reminds me.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
I love it. The hungry judge.
I remember
effect.
something like 10 years ago, like if you get convicted before lunch, your sentence is higher than after lunch.
Yes, exactly. It was this classic study preceding National Academy of Sciences. They looked at every parole decision made in this judicial county or whatever over the course of a year, like 1,000 of them, looking at what predicted the judge letting the guy walk versus sending him back for more jail. And the single best predictor was how many hours it had been since the judge had eaten a meal.
That is cold.
So the closer to the meal, the more likely.
You is to get a lighter
Agree.
sentence. Your sentence gonna be lighter. That's crazy, but it makes sense though, because that's that hangry. When you get hangry, you be hangry
Heavy.
through everybody sitting, talking to all these different people, and most of them lying. Yeah, 90 years.
Oh, I thought it was definitely how black the guy was standing in front of him.
Oh, well, that's after we get rid of the one that explains about 99.
That's what we was thinking, huh?
Yeah.
The
Still
darker
is.
the skin, the more time you gonna get.
9% of the variability. Once that's sorted out, the other extraneous
Another
factors.
variance in the force of it. Okay. All right, so that's shocking and disturbing, just simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so if the
Very.
judge, presumably the judge is thinking the judge is making the right decision in that moment.
Yeah.
But
Right.
in fact, they don't even know.
They
They're not
don't
even
know that they're being
self-aware.
influenced. Right.
Because they can't even, if you were, maybe you could correct for it.
And-
By the way, that
like that's trippy because remember my mushroom experience to where I seen all my senses were saying different things. You start to see that the control that you think you have, it's like really not your control. It's your different organs and your senses and your ideas that are really making the decisions for you.
And that's why Snickers used to say, "You're not you when you're hungry."
Yeah, you know, yeah. For real.
that got challenged for its
forgot about
statistics, and they responded adequately. And it's solid science, and it's been replicated. Do not go and apply for a home loan in a bank if the person you're talking to hasn't eaten for 4 hours. Other versions of that. Interestingly, the more hours a medical resident has gone without sleeping, if they're white, the more implicit bias they show on tests by the end of their sleep-deprived lunatic work period.
Whoa.
So yeah, that's what's up with the judges.
They more racist.
The white guy said it, not me.
Yeah, this the neuroscience scientists saying this, not us.
Is all sorts of stuff like that. Mild effects, these are not, but they're just part of this picture of stuff going on underneath the surface. So that's like how many hours it's been since you've eaten. But then you got to figure, like, what have hormones been doing in the last 24 hours? Because they're marinating your brain with the influences.
Yes,
And then you got to figure, what have the recent months, years, decades been like? Did you get traumatized? Did you find God? Did you find love? Did you lose either? What? Because that changes the brain.
And by the way, the food thing, that became an entire commercial line for Snickers candy bar.
Ah,
Yeah.
Really?
Are you
hey, just how
See? The sink is real.
the sink is real. The sink is real. Nothing else to be said. The sink is real.
hangry?
Oh, what a great way. And the most amazing thing is it makes sense. Like, blood glucose levels are low when you haven't eaten. And it turns out the part
the guy's
of your
just
brain,
crabby. They're all in a car on a road
Yes.
trip. And one guy's just completely crab. And actually, it's usually some other famously crabby famous person, right? So and that's who they turn into. And then they give them a Snickers bar, and then they're back to their
normal self.
That's
Joe Pesci.
finally science influencing commercial America. So reasonably, and it makes perfect. You're looking at this guy. He looks nothing like you. He's got a background that has nothing in common with you, and you're deciding, is this a person who has reformed? And it takes some work to see the world from this person's perspective. It takes some work to try to think about how they turned out to be different from who you are. It takes work, brain work, and the most expensive part of your brain is the one that you're working at that point. And if your glucose levels are low in your bloodstream, what the hell? Let's just go with an easy answer. It's very mechanistic, and it's exactly what you say. You sit the judge down at that point and say, whoa, that's really interesting.
Hey, that is wow. Cause you kind of like I see it in my kids. You feel me? When they wake up in the morning and they be cranky or something, and then as soon as you make some food, like hey, when you get to cooking for kids, why they just get happy? They start singing songs and all kind of stuff, doing praise. I don't know what the hell be going on, but they be happy because you didn't cook.
It's heightening their organs.
Yeah.
Like it's saying organ telling stories that they just reacting to.
That's wild. Every time.
asking, remember just after lunch you paroled this guy? And this guy just now did the same thing and you set him back for another 50 years in jail. What's up with that? And they'll quote freshman year philosophy. They're not going to say, oh, because I was mildly hypoglycemic and my frontal cortex was
They're delusional.
sluggish.
Delusional in their own intent. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so the big
that is
takeaway
deep.
here is if you are ever before any judge, make sure that you offer them cookies before they
Exactly. And the other advice is find a way to mention that it's
Make sure you
Just
get in there after lunch. Don't go before lunch because you over. You done. If he ain't had breakfast, that's a life sentence.
That's real.
it's your birthday.
I'll be there at
There's
10
even
o'clock.
been a study
Yeah,
showing
10.
judges give slightly shorter sentences if they're aware it's the defendant. Not if yesterday was or tomorrow was.
it's
but
got to be the
you-
day.
Terrible social conflict. Conflict number one, we need to protect society from dangerous, rapacious people. Conflict number two, be nice to people on their birthday. And somehow it balances out and you get a slightly shorter sentence.
Oh, no.
By the way, I fully embrace everything you've said, and I've done some recent amateur thinking about free will, and I want to share some of those ideas with you. But they will fully resonate with everything you said thus far. But I have to bring in sort of the physicist's perspective of free will, where if every action has a preceding action to it, you just take that all the way back till it's no longer in your consciousness, right? And then something set those series of synaptic trips in sequence, and then you end up saying something or doing something. So the physicists cause and effect argument. How does what you say dovetail with that, or are you saying something slightly different philosophically?
Actually, very similar. And, behavioral sciences, biology, whatever, made this major discovery recently, by which I mean somewhere in the last couple of centuries, which is something happened because of what came just before that, and that happened because of what just and that whole deal. I freak out when we've gotten anywhere near the Big Bang because I understand zero about that. But at the very least, and how do you turn out to evolve into the sort of species you are? Yeah, you look at everything, and it had a deterministic root.
Yeah, but okay. So there is the physics, physiology, philosophical argument that you just gave, and I don't think there's a good argument against it. And let me just expand a little bit for those catching up. The concept of chaos is not just disorder, all right?
Yeah.
You can. There's certain chaotic systems where you set them into motion with certain initial conditions, and you'll get a result. And it's a repeatable result with causes and effects determined from start to finish. However, if the system is truly chaotic, an arbitrarily small shift from those initial conditions can produce an infinitely different result at the other end. And so what it means is you can't realistically predict a future based on these starting parameters you give, because of how sensitive the future is to those starting parameters. So,
like a hurricane.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Precisely.
a hurricane.
Precisely.
Yeah, but it's trippy because I think it's all chaos. It's like a symphony of chaos. Like everything is chaotically happening. Like it takes all these different things to make one thing do what it do. It's not like the thing is just doing it. It's like, it take for our heart to do this and our lungs to do that, our blood vessels to do that, and all these things happening, going on for us to be able to just pick up a cup and drink some water.
All at the same damn time.
All at the same time.
All
And
with gravity happening at the same time with the planets and the air around us breathing.
Yeah, with yours going on and mine going on and the universe and everything else going on still at the same time. It's like still chaos, like at its finest, all of it just together. I don't know.
And it's why
And a butterfly.
weather, you can't really predict weather more than like a week in advance. Goes completely chaotic. So all they can do with the hurricane is give what the models all say, and you pick the middle one and work it from there. But every day you get closer to that, the models converge because it's less chaotic. So my question back to you, which you've surely gotten this before, is, okay, philosophically you can say what you did was predetermined, but the way we experience life, we feel we have free will, and isn't that good enough?
No, and
it's
not
not.
only isn't good enough scientifically, it's an awful thing for how life is for lots of people to believe in free will that isn't there,
Yeah.
because you give somebody a sense that they had control over how things turned out.
And they literally don't. But
It depends.
I think it's the illusion that you have it.
But I think the thing the mushroom show is who's casting the illusion.
You are.
Yeah. So I think like from their perspective, it's like it seemed like when they say something is happening to them, they still see it as something separate. So they say, "Oh, it's not free will because what is this thing coming at me that's making me do this stuff?" I wouldn't want nobody dead. Why
Yeah.
would I want that?
Yeah, or even just going to the store. Like you'll go, okay, to go to the store, I gotta go up to the light, I gotta make a right. Then the store is gonna be right there on the right hand side, right? That was already there. In order so that can happen many a times in so many different ways, it's unthinkable. But you do it the one way, and you think that you coming up with this thing that you going to this store, but the store was put there for you to do that. It was already there. The path was already there. It was already made. Many people had took it. You just took it the way you went when you went. That's the way I be looking at everything now, though. Like it's already there. You just decide, and what piece you want to use in this orchestrated matrix.
Yeah,
Forget
in order to
predicting the
conjure up your reality.
Say that again, Ty.
I say in order to conjure up your reality.
Yeah, your reality. But somebody else gonna go to the same store, but they gonna have to make two lefts. But it's still gonna be the same store. It's like I don't know. It's kind of trippy, bro. Like it's like
General
everything is
store.
just there.
The general store.
Yeah.
Changes society.
It justifies an awful lot. Well, put it this way: once you buy into my deal that there's no free will, and when you look at all the biological stuff going on, from like when you were single fertilized egg cell and everything thereafter, when you look at all that stuff, there's
That's
no
the
room
beginning,
in
right
there. That's it.
Just when you were born. No, when you were
Yeah.
zygote.
Yes,
Right.
because that actually has a huge influence on stuff. When there's not a crack anywhere in that edifice in which you could push in something that is completely free of the last centuries of science and how we understand the world to work. So that's great. If you buy into that, you suddenly realize there's something very wrong in that we run the world on the notion that it's okay to treat some people way better than average for things they had nothing to do with, and other people way worse than average for things they had nothing to do.
I was thinking about that, right, Ty? Because I was watching something and it was showing how, like a lot of the Egyptians that was pharaohs and different things like that. After a while, they made themselves gods, to where people looked at them like they were gods. And it's like once you put that God thing on you, they looked at you like you was, benevolent. But it's weird because if you push to today, we do the same thing with the ones that we feel like that had a spiritual awakening or that did these. We look at them as being like these godly, angelic, like spiritual creatures. And it's like, despite which way you think about it, like we all are still that thing.
Yeah, cause that's how whole cults get formed.
Yeah,
Or today, like whole like re-uploading the same person on YouTube all the time. Like, oh, if you put this up there, people gonna watch it.
yeah, people
Like,
gonna watch it.
stuff like that.
Yeah, play into it. Oh man, I couldn't. I tried to push play. Hold on, time.
do with, and then slather on nonsense about this being a just world afterward. And what getting rid of a notion of free will is about is saying, actually, that stuff you had no control over. Ooh, I had no idea biology.
It's not just an academic point, is what you're saying, to be
Not in
debated
the slightest.
in journals. It has very real consequences in our social cultural fabric.
Hello, Stark Talkiverse. Neil deGrasse Tyson here, your host of the Stark Talk podcast.
It's kind of trippy because, like, now if you think about, okay, Philly, right? Just Ty, you from Philly, like.
Yep.
You see a lot of, like, in the culture, you see a lot of people, you know, youngsters going out killing people and people getting killed. All these youngsters doing this thing right here. That, bro, it's like it was already programmed for them to do certain things, certain people to do certain things. It was just going to be these people were going to be the ones doing this. These type of people was going to be the ones doing that. It's like it was already predestined.
Yeah, in that aspect, that's why they call a project the projects.
Yeah. Yeah, and a person coming up in the projects, they're gonna act like they from the projects because they want people to know they from the projects and they with the shit.
Yep, they part of a huge ass project.
Yeah, that they was born into.
Yep, I was born into this.
Yeah.
My street.
My daddy is from this street. My grandpa is from this street. We all
They
bang
clone
this up.
Tyrone.
Yeah. Clone Tyrone, huh? Damn.
With it, I'm not sure if I'm completely there with the total no free will, just being honest. And so explain to me this. All right. So here's why I agree with you saying. I have a friend of mine, Dr. Mike, had a patient who tried to sell their baby. Okay. And they were a drug addict. So, and his.
These are your friends. These are your friends.
What?
Just want to be clear.
No, not the drug addict.
Sorry. Who am I sharing a podcast with here? Okay, go on.
So anyway, said to me, that they could not help doing that. And I said, you got to be out of your gourd. Like, what kind of hippy dippy commie liberal crap is that you're saying, look, this person tried to sell their child. And then he gave me all this information on how drugs hijack the dopaminergic system and how your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and your nucleus accumbens and all this crap comes together. And basically, you have no control over what you're doing.
Your decision tree has been hijacked.
Yes,
Yeah,
you are just responding to.
But it's still, I think, too, Ty, like it's a survival thing also, because that's how a bird can take and lay an egg in another bird's nest and have that bird take care of it and raise its baby. Like the other one where I seen the queen, that, you know, the queen, it was a certain type of bee and it laid an egg and it had a girl and the girl went out and got fermented and came back and had another baby. And then the queen, once she went out again to go and do whatever she do, the mother went in there, killed that baby and laid her own egg in there. So it was
destiny.
Yeah, but the thing is when that queen died, the other one is going to still do the same thing. So it's like this thing is doing its own thing, but we take it as we're making these choices. But these choices already been here. They always been here. People always been selling their kids and all these different things. But it's like if I sell my kid and my kid get a good home, I'm winning. Because if they got money to pay for them, they got money to take care of them, right? Maybe I'm wrong.
Hey, Nickelodeon.
Oh, no, not Nickelodeon, no.
I'm playing.
These things, this cascade that's happening in your brain, and it's really kind of like a neurosynaptic response to something that says, hey, go do this because we need this, and you'll do anything.
Okay, so you're agreeing with Robert. I thought you started this by saying you don't.
I am. Okay, now here's why that's why I agree, because I did all the reading and it makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
However,
here's what I want to know. What about just your regular everyday decisions? That has nothing to do with this outside force coming in and hijacking a system of your brain. It's just, I want vanilla ice cream right now. I just want vanilla ice cream. So what's...
I want pepperoni.
Yeah, your taste buds. You could want some vanilla ice cream because you seen the vanilla ice cream commercial and you don't remember seeing it. That's what I be feeling like sometimes. Because I see somebody eating pizza and then I get back to work and at lunch I go, man, I'm going to order some pizza.
Yeah, you can see it play off in the mind space.
Yeah.
You can see all those decision makings and what people would say hormones, or people say, oh, you just carried away with your hormones and all the differences. Like, you can witness certain things in your mind. I think that's what mushrooms and stuff show people as well. Like being able to be, when they say they're the observer, like being able to see what they would usually just be running off of full throttle because that's what their body is saying. But because it is saying that, but it's like we able to program it to say different things, and I think that's part of the free will too.
Yeah, that's part of it too.
My pizza.
I want pepperoni on my pizza.
Because Robert, these are. I'm going to see this movie tonight instead of this other movie.
Right.
These are the power we have over.
Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, I saw somebody eating pizza in the store in the car today, and I saw the thought flash in my mind. Oh, I want to get some pizza today.
Yeah.
But I was able to like play with that thought more than actually get the pizza, because then I remember I just had pizza 2 days ago too.
Yeah. See what happened with me is I was making a delivery and I seen somebody eating pizza. So on my way back, I'm gonna order me some pizza. As soon as I get back to the shop, I'm gonna order some pizza. I'm gonna go across the street, I'm gonna order me a slice of pizza, and I'm gonna hurry up and smash it. I get back to the shop and I'm like grabbing my bucket out the car, and one of my workers, one of the people that I work with is coming out the shop. And I'm like, where you going? They like, oh, I just ordered a pizza. I'm going across the street to get it. And I'm just like, okay. Like, you want some?
Right on time.
Yeah, it was like right on time. I just thought it. But it's like kind of weird that it been a lot of times to where I did that, to where I thought of something that I wanted. And then when I pulled up, somebody had it for me. Like, oh, I'm either going to get that right now, or here it is right here. Do you want some? Do you want it?
It's still even a free choice too, to eat the pizza or not eat the pizza.
Yeah.
Once it's there. So it's like free will. I mean, that's the title.
Yeah, you pictured yourself eating it already.
And then you picture yourself eating it more. All right, might as well. Let's go in. It's here for me.
It's here now.
You create the story. Yeah, develop the story.
Like, what do people say? Oh yeah, God work in mysterious ways.
Lives, small examples that they are. All right, this is the power over our lives that gives us this illusion that we have free will, and we're perfectly.
We doing
free will.
We doing a video on this. Free will. Doing a video on this Neil deGrasse Tyson free will.
perfectly content thinking that. You're saying there's some physiochemical, biomolecular thing that makes me choose strawberry instead of vanilla tonight.
Yeah, which is also saying there's this cultural thing, which is also saying how you were raised and what lullabies were sung to you have a that it's all one of the. Okay, let me give you a
that's
sense of
Mushrooms
this
make
with
you
the
notice this so that you can see
Yeah.
what you want to do in the future instead of being caught up by the whims of that.
Yeah,
Just
of
like
that.
we were talking about.
Because it's like as you go, everything will try to keep you caught up in that thing. Like we said, like if you say, okay, I want pizza, but then you go, no, I ain't gonna get none. You'll end up seeing somebody else eating pizza, or you'll end up being right there by the pizza shop, or you feel me? It's like it'll still throw it in your face. Like
I was thinking about pizza last week, and I was able to. It threw it in my face in a way where I was able to remember the first pizza I brought by myself when I was a kid,
yeah.
like 6 years old.
It's wild. That's wild because that taste when you
That's what
first.
nostalgia is, though. The
Yeah,
nostalgia train. People get caught up in nostalgia a lot.
yeah, we do.
if you happen to make a really stupid, rash decision and pick the wrong womb to spend 9 months in, and your mother was very stressed during the pregnancy, as a result, your brain would develop fewer of those dopamine neurons. And as an adult,
okay, so this is an epigenetic thing going on here.
Epigenetic, exactly. A part of the brain called the frontal cortex has to do with reining in your like imprudent urges and stuff. By
You
age
picked the wrong
5,
mother.
yeah, your mother's socioeconomic status by age 5 has already influenced the rate at which this part of the brain has developed.
Wow.
Every step thereafter, and it's just one piece leading to another to another. Okay, so
That's
something like you
crazy.
pick vanilla instead of strawberry, or what we're caught in there is exactly what you like we're alluding to. You sit there, you make a decision, you have a moment of intent. You're consciously aware of the intent. You know what the outcome's likely to be. Most importantly, you know you don't have to do this. There's alternatives. And that sure seems like free will. And that has nothing to do with free will.
I know it. You know what make me know it's not free will? Hey, you ever went you go to eat with somebody and they always get the same thing?
Yeah.
Like you go like you don't want to try nothing new. Like you gonna get the same thing every time, and they like, well, if I usually when I get something new, it don't taste right. My taste buds is craving for that.
My neighbors eat burritos and Little Caesars.
Yeah, I can't stand Little Caesars pizza. When you eat a real gourmet pizza, Little Caesars it don't even seem right. It's like, why are they doing that to us?
You gotta get the deep dish. That's the only one that tastes good. They always gotta make it on the spot. But other than that, it's cardboard pizza.
Yeah, it's cardboard pizza.
Because the only thing to ask at that point is, so how do you turn out to be the sort of person who would want vanilla over strawberry at that spot?
You know what I'm going to do, Robert? Next time I'm in an ice cream shop, I'm going to say, let me see, do I want vanilla? No, I want strawberry. Then, right when they're ready to scoop it, I walk out and say, I don't want any ice cream at all. That will totally confound your entire theory.
No, not at all. Because how do you wind up being the sort of person saying, screw that with trying to say this is how I'm going to show them or whatever.
I'm going to show you.
If you wound up
that's why he came up with that.
Yeah.
That's what I came up with.
You try to make yourself have free will, not doing. Look, you're not the only person that did that. This is not the first time it happened.
Trust me. I worked at an ice cream shop for 2 years, and they had about 30 flavors and changed them all the time. I seen how people rock and roll with their familiars and stuff like that. And they was tourists coming from different countries and stuff. So I got to experience a lot.
Said, I don't want no ice cream at all.
Exactly like your parents, there was a certain absence of free will. If at some point you said, oh my God, shoot me if I wind up having anything in common with my parents, I'm going to do just the opposite. It's the exact same absence of free will, and any version of that. You just happen to be someone who decides, ooh, I have a theory what this researcher is up to, this psychologist. I'm going to intentionally tell the opposite because I've got authority figure issues, or because I'm cranky today and my underwear is too tight, or who knows, whatever the impinging, what made you who you are at that moment.
Okay, Robert, so first, let me just preface all this with saying I completely agree with you. And all of my recent thinking aligns with this, and I want to share it with you, just so I can hear you say, Neil, you're like right on cue. I want to be able to hear you. I need that encouragement. But if this is an hypothesis that is strongly supported by observation, what would have to happen for you to say, I guess my hypothesis is wrong? Because if anything anybody says or does, you count as evidence in support of your theory, then the theory isn't testable. And if it's not testable, you're accepting everything as evidence. Oh, that he did that, I'm right. They did the opposite, I'm still right. You chose vanilla, I'm right. If you're right for everything, how am I going to know if you're ever wrong?
Here's how you falsify it.
Hey, that's my fake free will. It's a couple people who did this already and said they all wrong. I'm right. Everybody.
When you don't mention it it becomes a little harder to say in tangible words. When you try to say it in just bodily functions and experiences, you're gonna come across loopholes. But it's like that though. Life is full of loops.
Yeah, full of loops.
Show me, and at this point, like everyone says, oh, prove to us there's no free will. Prove to us there's no Easter bunny. Prove to us that, like, there's, till you turn around, there's somebody creeping up behind you. Oop, they disappeared.
Did I say that?
Absence of proof of absence, that whole deal. By now, the onus is on people saying there's free will, and this is what would falsify all of this. Show me a neuron, or a network of neurons, or a brain that just did something, and show me that it did that completely free of its history. It wouldn't matter what the other
quantum physics, that happens all the time. I mean, you have particles popping in and out of existence. There's no known cause for it. It just is, right?
Yeah.
This is where I get conniptions when
the words he be using. This is where I get conniptions. Conniptions.
Quantum physics is wonderfully relevant to quantum physics. It's got squat to do with free will.
Said what, Ty?
He needs to just mention the DMT.
Yeah, exactly.
Issues, because it's like, what is this physicist at MIT, Max Tegmark, has calculated 23.
We've had Max. We're friends with Max. Go on.
Okay, he's counting 23 orders of magnitude that an indeterminate subatomic effect would have to scale up to influence the behavior of a molecule. It doesn't scale.
Okay.
It gets
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Very, very important. I did not know that. That should shut everyone up who's trying to explain consciousness with quantum physics.
Exactly.
But it hasn't.
Because if they find a way where somehow magically it bubbles up, what you've just explained is a mechanism for randomness, for random behavior, not like the moral system you've had since you were in your diapers and the consistent.
So
and
even if we went there, it's not. It's random. Okay, and it's still not really in our control because it's random.
Exactly, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for, you get somebody's funeral, and what do? Is they trot out their oldest friend who gets to say, wow, even when we were in kindergarten, they were already like this. Consistent. You're not going to get consistency like that. You're not going to get like a stable moral compass or something out of quantum randomness. And every model out there, you get randomness. Exactly. That's not where the issue plays out.
Best explanation I've heard ever. Okay.
So are you saying neurologically, because I'm still stuck on the vanilla ice cream. I mean, I appreciate the quantum physics, but I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out yes and no, up and down. So, are you saying that our brains are ramped up with intention before we even enter the circumstance to say vanilla or chocolate?
Yeah.
There is something happening neurologically that has already put us at that precipice and then pushes us to that place.
From stuff that went on a second ago to back when you were a fetus and everything in between.
On
That's exactly it.
Imagination of real life.
Yeah, yeah, and
memories.
And look, it's crazy because it's like you said, mushrooms show you this. They show you that every aspect of you, your adolescence, your 5-year-old, your 12-year-old, your 19-year-old, you still plays a part in your life right now.
That you matter. You always matter, to the point that if you don't see what you matter up to this point, then you're missing out on the mechanisms that's still creating reality for you, as you're the one doing it, like the person.
You're the one doing it. So you took all that stuff from back then in order to create this right here, but you still use certain aspects of yourself in order to keep this what it is.
Yep, and that's what the journey is, seeing how, oh, I wanted to believe in this because somebody said this, and it made me forget about that because something in my brain was going on. I was born into this family and then raised with a family that treated people like this, so then needed this to come into life, into being, to be able to come across some kind of new knowledge.
Yeah, even if it's like, okay, you this color, so you supposed to be like this. Even if you go, well, just because I'm this color don't mean I gotta be like this. All these things were already thought of and done. It's like that. There's not too much that you can think that haven't been thunketh. There's not too much.
Nope, it's just enough.
Just enough for you to do what you would. To form it how you want.
It's all you are. Okay, here's my embroider this on doilies. We are nothing more than the biology over which we had no control, and its interactions with environment over which we had no control. And that's why we are who we are. Like, if I go into a supermarket, I'm not going to buy cheddar cheese. How come? Probably because some of the genetics of my taste buds, but also because when my wife and I first got together, because I had been a vegetarian in college, and thus all you ate was like large blocks of cheddar cheese because they had not discovered vegetables yet at that time. Like, this was and she said, oh my God, that's a saturated fat. That's incredibly bad for your health. And I was changed as a result. And what we know is the biology of it even involves change the makeup of my gustatory receptors in my tongue as to what tastes good now. All of this stuff, all of these pieces come into place, and the challenge winds up being, show me that this person would have done the exact same thing if they had different genes, they had a different fetal life, if they got.
And that's like crazy, because you're not just gonna cut out the cheese, you're gonna cut out anything that got milk in it. Anything got to do with milk, you is not touching. Your taste buds is not having it.
Yep. You got the free will to change it.
Yeah.
So you can react to things how you wish to react to them.
Yeah, but now you just that person. You just that vegan. It's been done before. Yeah, it's already been done.
Free will, he chose it though. It was marketed.
You'll be back to meet in 2-3 years.
2-3 years. Yeah, some of us go back. I did. I went back fast. 2 years, I was done. I was malnutrition.
Oh God.
Yeah.
different neighborhood, by different parents with different culture, all of that. And if they had had a different breakfast this morning and all that stuff. And
okay, I still need to get this compliment from you. So here are my recent thoughts. Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Okay. Because I was following the free will argument, and I just wasn't. The arguments were just not enlightening to me. This every neurosynaptic firing has a precedent, and that you'll do things that you will make up the reason afterwards for why you did it, but in fact it was predetermined. Fine, okay, you can argue that philosophically why that must be so, but I came to the same conclusion differently, in a more restricted sense. I asked myself, the person who is depressed, chemically depressed, do they have the free will to not be depressed?
Absolutely
well, let's back up.
No.
If you look at
no, they don't.
If you look at,
I can answer that. I say no, they don't, because we always go back to the mushroom experience. I went through that experience of being a person that was just depressed and all these different things, and it was like crazy because when I entered that depression on mushrooms, I couldn't find a way out. Like, I felt like that was just me. I couldn't get out of it. There was no way that I could break free of it, because everything that I would think would send me deeper into that depression.
Yeah, that does happen. And this comes from a person, I had about 3 attempts in like this lifestyle. So it comes to a point where you see so-called genetic disposal, but also you go beyond that. You go really into that and see what placebo means. See how they say epigenetics changes because of your mind state and stuff like that. How it changes the actual state of being, and how it probably created that being that's going on at that time, and that the only way to change it is like that. So whatever, if it is some kind of chemical thing going on, it's still being maintained by the mind state, because that's what starts it. I don't think it's an after effect. I think it's kind of what maintains. It's like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you tell it like you become the depressed person. Like,
So you're gonna have that.
Since you get depressed from eating ice cream, depressed from taking a bath, a shower, putting on your socks. It's like everything will lead you into
But that free
place.
will though, no, but that free will though comes though with still choosing that at certain corners. Like, say you cross like 3 corners that get you depressed, but then the 4th corner, it can go to like a 4th corner or the 5th corner, and the 5th corner would make the other corner seem like, oh, that wasn't nothing, but the other one would make it seem like, oh yeah, you really did go through that. Like you said, reaffirming it even more.
But
so I think like,
but okay, when you go into that corner, like that corner was there before you got there. So it's like you wasn't the first, and you're not gonna be the last that stepped into that corner.
Yeah, it's just how you see it, how you see the corner being made. Period.
Yeah,
like I think it's really a mental game. Like, how do you see that thing?
Hella mental game. Because everybody who step in it, they gonna see it differently. Like, they was the first one that was in there, so don't nobody else understand because I was here.
And then other people understand that they felt like they was the first person here. Like the band My Chemical Romance I used to listen to, and it was called My Chemical Romance because of these situations we talking about. They was in a romance, but they felt like it was because of their chemicals. But they talked, it was a cool emo band back in the day. The YouTubers probably know about it.
Yeah.
But oh man, the alcohol. What was I saying?
I took me 2 shots myself. I can't say nothing.
What did you mention before that?
Yeah.
Free will.
Yeah.
About
free will.
seeing about seeing what you want to do And it'll come back. It'll come back.
I got lost too. I'm still like, well, dang, I thought I was the only one that took a shot. Oh my goodness, yeah.
That's what I was saying. My Chemical Romance, and how they got the band and stuff out, and they would talk about. They had this song called "The Black Parade," and it was a song that made people that felt like they were the only one going through it because they were so black in their identity, not just skin, but like the mysteries of life and who are they and things is going wrong and stuff. But that it was the Black Parade, and that all of them was together around the world, even if you felt like you was alone. So somebody in the world that was going through that was able to see how other people go through that, and then turn another corner and still be able to work with that energy, but work with it in a way where it's able to not be so damning, but say, I see y'all going through this and you're not alone, and like go through all the thought process that would keep them going until it
Yeah,
gets to the end of the song where it say, but it can be like this. After them saying, oh, you said my whole life. But then in
yeah,
the end, they that extra path. Well, you can
yeah.
try to do this though.
And
Not
this,
every song.
yeah, you can, but you can try to do this to get away from that over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're
Juicy
saying.
J and them just came out with a song. Juicy J and some other rappers, but I was cracking up because Lil B was at the end, and they was talking about sleeping with somebody the first time you meet them and everything. And
Yeah.
then Lil B at the end of the song, he started whispering, saying, you don't got to do that. They slowed the beat down. You
Oh,
can go and like talk it out, get to see what they like first.
yeah. You can get to know them. Let me give you the other side of it. It's like I'm gonna give you the side that you feeling, but then I'm gonna give you this other side that you could feel also. Because a lot of people can't even make it to that other side because all they thought, like when I was stuck in that space, it didn't matter what it was. Like even if I thought of my kids or something like that, it would still make it into something like that was terrible or bad. So it was like I couldn't get out of it. So I was just kind of just letting it happen so I could see all the stages of it. And it was like, whoa, you feel me? People that's in that state, a lot of people can't come back from it. Some can, but everybody can't. It's going to be a couple that's just not going to be able to, it's not going to happen.
At culture, one by one, things people have done in the past have fallen by the way the person is not accountable. Okay? Now, an early one of these would have been epilepsy. Okay? The devil got you. It's not your fault. Bring the priest. Okay? We got that. But if you were, I'm old enough, maybe you're old enough, the Skid Row bum, the drunkard, all blame was placed on that person. No?
There we go.
Okay, we find out
I couldn't hit
that
the talk
alcohol
button.
is
Oh,
addictive,
man.
and when you're addicted, you can't get off of it. And there's a homeless community where circumstance have put them there, and so society has changed in its response to this. Okay, the people who are who are depressed and on the brink of suicide, we're not saying, "Oh, just cheer up." No, we're saying there's a neurological problem and they're not in control.
Yes.
And the person,
Yeah.
the
That's
instant
how I feel.
before they jump off the bridge, do they have the free will to not jump off the bridge? And as I went through this mental exercise, more and more of society ended up folding into this mindset. And I got more and more depressed. Not depressed, angered. I got angered by it. And you find out, what is it, 70% of people in prison?
Like it's wild, right? Because when we do statistics, we only look at the human race, and we don't look at all the different life forms that live on this planet. We mainly pay attention to, on certain points, we just pay attention to the human race.
No, they do.
Yeah, some do, but
They compare us to mice sometimes.
you going in and out, Kristen. What you say?
I said they compare us to mice sometimes.
Yeah, to mice. But I'm saying, like, animals be destroying themselves too. They do a lot of weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like everything in this reality just do some weird shit because of these different chemical reactions or whatever.
I remember that episode of South Park. Remember when Satan was talking about hormones to stand?
Oh, dang, I don't remember that one.
He was just talking about hormone balances, and that's what get people horny and stuff like that. And just to pay attention to it as it's going on, so you don't get so caught up.
Yeah,
But
see,
it's natural.
But it's natural. Just don't get caught up in it.
To do, but men don't. But men have testosterone, okay? And with testosterone, violence is our. I checked this at an intersection, okay? If someone cuts you off in an intersection, if someone said, "You, how did you?" Blah, 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 chances are it's a guy, okay, with testosterone out of control.
Not in my neighborhood. I'm just we got some rough women around here. So
the men historically have not been honest about what role testosterone plays in their proclivity to commit violence, for example. Okay? And so all of a sudden I said to myself, is everything in society explainable in this way? And then I realized, oh my gosh, if it is, then our entire moral code has to shift. It has to, it's not a matter of punishment, it's a matter of nurturing and understanding. So let me pivot now to you and say, if we agree,
the thing about that though,
that you're right.
Some women, they say that they produce a lot more testosterone than estrogen in some studies.
Yeah. I get cut off mainly, it be women. I don't be getting mad though no more. I just slow down and let them in. Then you won't feel like you getting cut off. Just slow down. Let them get over there. I'm for real.
I just let them
How
on
does
through.
society?
Because like, have you ever got cut off, and then, like how they said that reaction starts a chemical reaction within your brain that make you start driving a certain way, and then you end up cutting somebody off. You don't do it on purpose, but it'll happen. Like I did it several times, and I just said, man, I'm just, when somebody trying to get over or they start to get over, I'll just kind of slow down and hit my brakes a little bit and let them in. I'm not even going.
Yeah, let them do what you do. You on some type of mission, I see. Just go ahead about your day.
All they trying to do is get over. Really? That's it.
They just probably thought about it late, and it's like, oh man, I gotta hurry up and try to make this turn one more block.
Yeah, messed up, missed the stop, or something. They just trying to get over. It's like, let them over. Like, we gonna get there. That's all that matters, is that we get there. But if we stop and we be arguing about because you jumped in front of me, you didn't even hit my car.
Yeah.
Why am I
created
tripping?
Time?
Yeah.
People create that time of panic right there.
Yeah.
Time to panic.
Time to panic. Ass whooping time.
To change.
Massively. Totally. Because
Massively.
when you think this
The
through,
compassion machine has to be put into effect, and you're not getting that in conservative politics, right? Conservative politics.
Yes. Exactly. But if you're really going to test it, you got to see if somebody's willing to feel compassionate about how Donald Trump became the person who he is. Because
hey, why his dog kind of look like him though? You see how the top of his hair is brown, but then all this is white.
White, yeah. No
Like,
free will.
No free will.
it's the same
So we
issue
can laugh
here.
at him
if
right
you
now.
really follow this,
being the best of the best. of the episode. Yes. How did this happen? I don't know. I believe God chose me.
Yeah.
Wow, that's scary. That's really good. And blame and punishment make no sense. Praise and reward make no sense. Meritocracies make no sense. Criminal justice makes no sense. Feeling like you have earned anything makes no sense. Hating somebody makes as little sense as hating an earthquake. All of that. That's the only logical point you can get to. And I've been thinking this way since I was 14, and I can actually function this way about 3 minutes every other month. Because it's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But I've done it in some ways. I don't believe when there's a lightning storm that some old woman with no teeth at the edge of the hamlet caused it with her witchcraft. That one's easy now. I
Right.
subtracted responsibility. That
But
one
in the
just
old days,
seems too-
that was not the case. Right.
Exactly. And when you and I, Chuck, you appear to be too much of a youngin' for this, but Neil, when we were both young, if when we were in elementary school, if you had the kid sitting next to you was just not learning how to read, and they just weren't paying attention, and you know what the attributions were, then this kid, they're not motivated, maybe they're not so smart, they're lazy, they just don't pay.
Put them in the slow class with the short bus.
Exactly.
Yeah. What the hell?
And then people discovered, there's this biological thing called dyslexia, like the architecture of one layer of your cortex is screwy, and as a result you flipped closed loop letters around, and just in our lifetime we have learned that's not a lazy kid. Whoa, we've done that one. That one didn't take 300 years of getting rid of witch burning. That one, people have figured out in our
Can see the
lifetime
system
who
that we
you love.
created. They study creating new systems of how they literally see the world. I see that backwards.
Remember they did that on Percy Jackson?
Yep.
And he thought he was dyslexic, but it was like reading to him a whole nother language or some shit.
I used to have a lot of things going like that.
Just think how many
We'll try
kids.
to rap. And then, you ever try to rap and read the words, or you say different words, even though it's right there on the paper?
Yeah.
The imagination take over more than what's on the paper. He's like, run that back. I know I gotta say that how I wrote it though.
Yeah. You keep messing up, I used to mess up 1,000 times until I started getting smart. I just threw in whatever I could at that point.
Yeah.
Just kept it going. Come back. I'll fix it later.
That's how you start living your life.
Yeah.
Hey, the world can be whatever it is. I'm gonna make it work. I don't gotta really be adhered to this system.
Yeah, I'm gonna just make it do what it do.
Biological phenomenon. It's not some I had no idea biology had to do it. So we're slowly getting better. And at each one of these steps, we figured out schizophrenia is not caused by mothers who unconsciously hate their child. Autism is not caused by mothers.
It's crazy because we was talking about that earlier. When we was young, if you had a disability, say if you was depressed, you get a whooping, it'll make you undepressed. Kids probably was getting ass whoopings and they had dyslexia and the parents never knew. They had autism, the parents never knew. They just thought they was just being bad, or they was, going against they orders and stuff.
You hearing voices? You better just listen to my voice when I tell you to sit down.
Sit your ass down. Talk about Tyrone talking. You better tell Tyrone he better shut his ass up too.
Mothers who are incapable of love. It's a neurogenetic developmental disorder. We figured that one out. And hundreds of thousands of women who spent their whole lives being told by every expert out there that they were the cause of their child's schizophrenia. Suddenly, this isn't depressing. This is liberating. Every time we've done this, it's become a more humane place.
Yes. And even, and of course,
because it won't come off as a schizophrenic episode to people unless they troubled by stuff. And they ain't had no support in certain ways. Or else they'll term it something else. I'm just religious, or I'm just thinking, or I'm an artist.
I'm just religious. That will come off a lot.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a
Like,
film
Just like
from the
Grandma and Mommy.
early 60s
Man.
where someone was addicted to drugs, and it was a drama. He was addicted to drugs, and he said, I'm a junkie and I can't stop it. But the resolution of that story was the cops came and arrested him. Today, that's unthinkable, right? If someone says, I'm a junkie, I can't stop it, you don't arrest them, you help them, right? And that's a compassion.
Wait, what country are we talking about here?
Exactly what well, if you say that from your men's club where you've had a little bit too much vodka, then they send you to a nice expensive rehab program. If it's out on a street corner, maybe something different.
Have you ever wanted one of your questions on the universe
Man.
answered? We all have.
Hey, you know what I love about this stuff is the fact that this is all the stuff we be talking about. That's why a lot of times I don't even be listening to a lot of shit no more, because everything I listen to we already talked about, or we talking about it. It's like we go into the same things.
It's just like do you need another confirmation?
No, but the confirmation you need gotta come from Neil deGrasse Tyson. If we just got it from James, if we just got it from James next door that nobody knows, and it was the same information, and you ain't gonna tell everybody when you telling them James said it, because they gonna be like, who is James? Like, who the hell is that? But if you say Neil deGrasse Tyson, it's like, oh yeah, I be watching his videos. I know who that guy is.
Until you turn that other corner, because people don't care, but then they care at the same time.
Yeah.
There's a billion people in the world.
Billions. Trillions that came through the world.
You think you would be doing what?
Okay, but this had to be another universe. It wouldn't happen in this universe.
Okay.
I'd be a songwriter for Broadway musicals.
Ooh.
So, that's the entry.
Great. I think what scares people is they start thinking about the consequences of this. And because I was just thinking about, okay, so what about responsibility, and what do you do if people can just do what they want? But then it just popped into my head while you guys were talking. What if I were able to do anything I wanted? Anything. If you told me I can go out and do anything I want with no consequence, what would I change? And the truth is, very, very little. Yeah. I would not go out and kill anybody. I would not start doing drugs. I'd pretty much still be the exact same person I am right now, even if you gave me the ability to do anything that I wanted. It wouldn't lead me down this path of, and now I'm just going to become the most decadent, most evil, baboon-like person that I can possibly become.
I mean, like the laws were the only thing preventing you from committing crime.
It's not just the laws. It's my place in society. It's my commitment to being a citizen. It's all these other things that make me me.
Okay, so Robert, we can split the kingdom here by saying there are forces that are societal and cultural, and then there are forces that are purely biological and physiological. And yes, there's overlap. I get it. But if we're going to prevent religious factions from killing each other, I refuse to think that that's biological. This is a trained thing from birth, where your religion is better than someone else's religion, and they're the wrong religion. And so there's a kind of a brainwashing there in not accepting the diversity of what exists around us. So maybe if we can't change the biology, we can change the culture. How far will that get us in a world with no free will?
Not that far.
It's going to make a spectacular place to live in about 600 years. It's going to be long. It's a long. First off, I'm obliged, or I have to give up my pedantry license to say, oh, Neil, that's a false dichotomy between culture and bio. It's one and the same. Like your mother was from a collectivist culture versus an individual.
No, I say there's overlap. There's overlap, of course. I'm not denying that, but what I'm saying is, what has to happen in this world if we cannot change our physiology to make it safer for us all and more of a utopia that you have imagined? Change the educational system? Let everybody free from the prison system?
No, of course not. Of course not. You can't have dangerous people running around, but we've figured out ways to deal with dangerous people who are damaging for reasons out of their control and to protect society from them. Here's a great example. Your kid is sneezing. Your kid has a nose cold. And what you do is you keep them home from kindergarten tomorrow because there's a preemptive law. Please, if your kid has a cold, don't send them so they don't get everybody else sick. You quarantine, you constrain your child's behavior, but you don't then tell them that they can't play with their toys that day because they're a rotten person for sneezing. You subtract responsibility out of it and you still can protect. And we do that in all sorts of airline pilot is taking antihistamines because of their cold and it makes them a little drowsy. You can't work, you can't fly for X number of days if you're taking antihistamine. We can build a world in which we protect people from damaging folks, and hopefully along the way recognizing how people became damaging, and while subtracting out responsibility and moralizing and sermoning at them, and because you could see biologically where things went wrong. And you can see where culture comes in. Okay, so like great example, the schizophrenia thing. People started figuring out in the 1950s, scientists, that schizophrenia wasn't caused by bad mothering, it was caused by neurochemistry. And it had zero impact on psychiatry and family members of people with schizophrenia. It had no impact at all until something amazing happened in the 1980s. Phil Donahue was the Oprah of the time, who turned out he had a relative with schizophrenia, and he invited on this
talk show host.
Phil Donahue's very persuasive biological psychiatrist who did something amazing. He held up some of the first brain scans that were just being published at the time, showing structurally there's differences in the brains of people with schizophrenia. And whoa, look, you can look at the picture of it. And that was the transformative moment. So you could say, okay, so why do we have a culture where it took someone like Phil Donahue to have us rethink this? Why do we have a culture where it takes Caitlyn Jenner appearing on the cover of whatever magazine that was?
And that's because the entertainment of the show, actually they can throw in some other things to wake people up, because people want the entertainment from Phil Donahue, the shit that he was doing. And then if they just throw that in, now it's like, oh, okay, dang, I didn't know that.
Yep. Even if they already experienced it.
yeah, even if they already experienced it. But now, like I said, Phil Donahue is showing you
experience. Now. With the lighting just right.
Yeah.
People to say, oh, this trans stuff, sometimes people just feel like they're a different sex than what their biology, and why'd we wind up being that kind of culture? Why'd we wind up having a culture in which, certain values are glorified and another culture is exactly the opposite? How were you raised? Depending on what culture, is a difference in how many seconds on the average you would cry before your mother would pick you up. Were they training you to be tough, or were they training you to feel safe? And just each time that happened, your brain got constructed a little bit differently. And at each one of these steps, it goes on like that. And how do you, what makes somebody an ex-white supremacist? What went into that? All of these things can change, and the cultural changes and the biological changes are totally intertwined. And what we're getting at here is the worst conclusion to come out of this with is, oh, there's no free will. Nothing can change. Things change enormously. All you have to do is understand where the buttons are. and where the levers are and where the irrationality is and where the post hoc rationalizations are to explain something that in fact was a pure gut instinct and makes no sense at all. And how did people get that way? And how do you get people that way to stop being that way? And
just to be clear, a post hoc explanation is you see something happen and you after the fact account for why it happened without real evidence for what actually caused it. And so you have a post hoc accounting. And there's been a lot of that in the history of civilization.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're kind of saying, let's look at these social ills and maladies with an eye towards restoration and compassion and restoration, as opposed to punitive measures only, which is what we do now. We just go, we're gonna punish you, and that's it. And normally people go to jail and come out worse criminals,
better trained.
Right, they're trained to become criminals.
Yeah, exactly. And like you can use punishment and you can
put
use
them in there with
reward
all criminals. So every time they talk to another criminal will be like, well, wait, you did what? Well, I did it this way.
Yep, meet the master criminal.
You beast trying to man.
It's like instrumental tools, because that's a good way to make organisms change behavior. But the notion of them being virtues in and of itself are ridiculous. And yeah, it makes no sense to hold somebody responsible either for the fact that their unbelievably awful upbringing resulted in someone with a really impaired capacity for empathy and feeling somebody else's pain, or the fact that somebody's really privileged upbringing produced somebody who gets really good SAT scores and know how to write a 5-paragraph essay and get into a prestigious college. Like in both, there's no intrinsic virtue in how any of us turned out, and there's no intrinsic earned or entitled. And that's hard as hell to subtract that out. And what I've seen is, that's really scary in terms of saying, oh, what are we going to have criminals running around in the street, and what do we do with criminal justice? It's going to be a lot harder for people like us to instead say, oh, I actually haven't earned anything with my work ethic. I actually haven't earned anything with my good SAT scores or my corner office or my amazing salary. It's going to be much harder to undo the meritocracy end of it, because anyone who's sitting and listening to like ridiculous stuff about cosmology and stuff, they're one of the lucky ones. They learned how to read. They're probably not homeless. We're the lucky ones, and if there being no free will means, bummer, my CV maybe isn't as impressive as I used to think it was and doesn't indicate I'm a much better human than average. And we're the ones who, we're in the subset where we are treated better than average in society. Like when they come up with the vaccine.
Say, well, I worked hard for this. I worked.
Exactly. You had that roommate who no doubt went out and got falling down drunk.
Hey. Man, bro, I like this guy right here, cause that's things I seen on my journey too. It's like, nobody was different than anybody. We was just putting, like, that's why I was saying about the hot dog, just a polished hot dog. That's it.
Just make your best out of it.
Yeah, put some relish on it. You put some relish on yours. I'm just saying.
Drunk that Saturday night and you studied instead and you earned this, and you learned something different. Your brain did gratification postponement differently because of this, that, and the other thing.
Here's something I do tell people. People say, how'd you write so many books? My answer is, I probably watched less football than you do.
How'd that turn out? How the, I watch less football than average because there was one stage where I decided that bullies would like me if I memorized every stupid factoid about the Green Bay Packers because they were in ascendancy at the time. And that
How to
turned out
not get
not to
beaten up.
work. Yeah, and that turned out not to impress them in the slightest. They didn't get, and okay, so football is not the route towards like, so like I lost interest in football. That's why I don't watch football, because like knowing, you know, Vince Lombardi and his like golden rule or whatever. Yeah, all of these things come from somewhere, and
Self-awareness.
we turned out who we are. And for most people, we're
Because somebody
claiming
will
they're
try to tell
responsible
you
for
why
stuff
you
that didn't
don't
turn
believe.
out very well, that they in
Like,
fact
wait,
had no
I
control
remember
over.
why I don't.
By the way, I watch
Am I-
football because I have to support anything that keeps what could be murderous barbarians off of the streets of our country. Because I don't know if you've seen these guys, but they are scary. And the fact that we give them lots of money to, you know, run into each other instead of us is fine with me.
Just a couple of more sort of points to close this out. So you would say then that people might have a susceptibility, a biophysiological susceptibility to addiction, to joining cults, to belief systems, and there's a certain
to working hard.
Innocence might not be the right word, but a certain unaccountability to that. That's a fair statement, correct?
Yeah. And other people wind up with a proclivity for feeling other people's pain, or being able to look past superficial explanations, or reflect on things and respect the process of reflecting on things. And yeah, the good sides, the bad sides, it's all how we turned out, and it's stuff we had no control over.
Okay, so what's if people read your book, Determined, okay, just came out a few months ago. Do you really think it would take 600 years to reach that? I mean, if I look at the pace of social cultural change, it's faster than that. I would like to believe that the depths of compassion that a society without free will promotes is something that would come to us much sooner than that, than 600 years.
Well, maybe I'm more pessimistic than you. We figured out, you know, witches don't control the weather, and it's a bummer to burn old women at the stake. Yeah, we got that one
years
sorted
ago.
out.
Yeah, okay.
We sorted that one out. It was 50 years ago that
we figured out epilepsy.
We figured that out. We're kind of figuring out that there's a biology to obesity and people who have trouble feeling a satiation signal. And it's not because they secretly hate themselves. They've got screwy receptors for some satiation hormone and they're hypothalamus. And we're doing that stuff all the time, but we got a long way to go with it. And, you know, as I said, I think this way all the time, but I can actually act on this for 2 seconds at a time. Somebody cuts me off in traffic. I think they are a vile human who deserves to burn in hell. Someone tells me like, ooh, nice sweater. And for a few seconds afterward, I think I'm intrinsically a better human than average as a result. And then think about it a second time and a fourth time and a 10th time. And when you next feel like judging somebody, do that. And when you next feel like you earned the right to be at the front of the line for the next vaccine, think about it a second and 10th time as well. And baby steps.
Well, for those only listening to this podcast, our guest, Robert,
Oh, that's all? No, you got some good stuff out there here and there. I grew up with listening to him talk about stars and stuff.
has a full up sample.
Hey, we did made a good one though. 30 minutes. Animation Studios. Yep, Timation Studios, Just Time Now. Look up Lit Luna, Litluna. Franco, bringing the facts about mushrooms and stuff. Latest about AI news. Oh, I got the Top Ventures of Cheekham, the Starfall movie. It's a couple Top Ventures out there. Thanks.